So folks, let's talk about the build that has made Path of Exile 2 feel the way I wanted Path of Exile 2 to feel like. Is it immortal? No. Does it clear the entire screen at once? No. Does it do insane single damage? No. It doesn't actually do anything specifically well, but what it does do is let me play around the mobs. It lets me play around what's happening around me. And if I make mistakes, I die. If I don't make mistakes, I live. And it's been so much fun. This concept came about as a result of me being linked a Gamer for Life highlight video that showed a clip of Ruetoo showing off the idea, the concept of stacking temporal chains all the way to 100% on a Pathfinder. And I said I could make Ignite work with that, and we went off to the races. So what I ended up doing was taking the concept of, okay, we have to go really heavy into a curse, so why not just go 3 curses? So we have 3 Blasphemy curses, we have Temp Chains, Enfeeble, and for our damage we have Flammability. We're boosting those up really, really high on a Blasphemy setup, and then spreading that to all the mobs around us, making them extremely slow, deal a whole lot less damage, and then have a whole lot of minus fire resistances. What this lets us do is run through maps and things while actually reacting to the way that mobs are moving. So if you see a line of porcupine projectiles firing up, you can run past them, charge up a Flameblast, and blow up on them. You see somebody leap slamming at you, you can step out of the way, roll out of the way, or, you know, just kind of know ahead of time that they won't reach you and flame blast them there. When you start getting into magic packs, magic mobs will start charging at you, but they'll slow down right before they get to you, and they'll still charge up their attacks. They can still kill you. Everything can still kill you in this build. I mean, I only have 200 or 2000 HP. I'm still very vulnerable to dying, but I have time to react to things. I have time to actually play around what's happening around me, and that's felt really, really good. When it comes to rares, however, yeah, you're still relatively safe, but the reality is that rares do spawn a bunch of things on the ground. They do a bunch of on-death effects. They do a bunch of things that this build has nothing against, so you are still kind of playing by the skin of your teeth when it comes to rares. But if you're paying attention, they're still slower. They're still doing things at a reduced rate because of the effects of Temporal Chains and Enfeeble lowering their damage, so you do feel really good about that. But yeah, you will die if you misstep a dodge because the enemy's so slowed down. You'll get one shot. If you put yourself in a position where you're stuck in a corner and someone's going to do a slam, you'll get one shot. If you're doing a Citadel boss and your helper NPC happens to get Shroudwalker because you're spec'd into the Atlas node that gives them a unique modifier, and she's supposed to be putting a shield up instead, she decides to Shroudwalk to the enemy and put the shield away, and then you die to the sand. Well, you're not technically getting one shot, but you are dying to some bullshit there, so, you know, that can happen as well. That's the reason I don't have a Citadel fight in this video. I was trying to get one right before the servers went down. I had one Citadel left, and well, yeah, that happened in that. So, yeah, the single target's not anything to write home about. You know, like I said, you're still an Ignite build. Ignite is fairly weak at the moment, and this thing's got exposure. It's got minus resistances. It's got double shock now. I've thrown the book at this thing. We got +8 to all skills. I'm not on a 6th link yet, so that's the one thing I'm missing. So that will make it so I have double shock consistently, but still, Ignite's in a pretty bad spot, and we'll talk about that when we get to the leveling setup. But yeah, for mapping is really fun. Mapping's been probably this is the only build so far in Path of Exile 2's early access that I've enjoyed mapping on, because it does actually let me map in a way that I'm engaged with the combat. I'm engaged with what's happening on the screen. I don't have to think about, can I one-shot everything, or can I clear the entire screen? I can actually look at a pack of mobs, run towards it, and know that I'm actually reacting to what it's going to be doing, and that's made it really, really fun. This is the Path of Exile 2 experience I really wanted out of the game. This is what I was hoping for was going to be how Path of Exile 2 was going to play. But, you know, right now the late game, end game stuff is really cracked out fast, so having a stacking temporal chains like this really helps with that. So, let's get into the build and how I made it. And where we're going to start is, I guess, the curses, because that's going to be the most important part. We're going to open that window, and we're going to open that window, and we're going to close off the energy shield. So what we're doing is, and how the system works, is Blasphemy, Temp Chains. We'll start with a core there. Temporal Chains is a curse, so you get a bunch of curse stacking stuff. Not these things, because you don't need faster activations or anything like that. You just get curse stuff here, you get some curse stuff here, you get some curse stuff. Was there one more node down here? This is just area effect for your Blasphemy. and along with giving you hinder. So now you have curse effect. On top of curse effect, you then make it into a blasphemy aura. This makes it an aura, so you can scale increased effective aura skills using the nodes. So now it's a multiplier to the curse that you have, the curse effect you have. You can get that over there, and you can also get it on your jewels for increased effective auras from your skills. So this is now boosting Temporal Chains again. From there, you're going to get the fact that Temporal Chains is putting on a slow modifier, so you can do the magnitude of slows from things like chronomancy. These nodes are really good. And then down here I went ahead and anointed this node for myself just to see what it felt like, and that's how we got to the percent we're currently at. Now if you're a chronomancer, there are a couple more nodes there, but chronomancer is pretty weak for a setup like this because the thing you're lacking is actually damage. So for me it was much more important to get things like shock, get things like arcane surge, get things like the additional exposure, and be able to boost up those modifiers. So that's why I'm not a chronomancer. For me, I went Temporal Chains here, and then I've got myself the encumbrance to boost up the slow modifiers once again. Remember, this is all stacking on top of each other in a multiplicative way. And then we have some more area effects, so things are, around us are a bigger area. And then we have the increased effect of curses here. It's just to do with how much spirit I currently have. I'd love to put another curse into here and then boost up another one, but I currently can't. And that's why I have a second blasphemy, because you can run two. There's nothing saying you can't run two of the same active, you just can't run supports. So I have a second blasphemy in here that is doing Flammability and Enfeeble with the other area modifier to make it so they're all kind of about the same area in general for that. And because we are boosting curses over here, we're boosting curses there, we get to boost all of these curses up and kind of get rid of the badness of Blasphemy and still have a really, really powerful level of Flammability and Enfeeble, all that stuff on top of it. And that really helps with the feel of the build overall, because you are investing so heavily into one curse to make that slow effect from Temporal Chains work. You might as well then boost up the rest of your curses as well. So yeah, just make sure these are all qualityed, make sure you got spirit somewhere, and we'll go over what the gear looks like in a little bit. But that's the basic general outline of the build. Is you're going to be going around the tree, picking up aura effect, picking up slows, picking up curses, and just stacking all of that while stacking jewels that either have aura effect, curse effect, whatever have you, whatever you can find. That's going to be the things you're looking for. And in my case, these jewels are kind of hard to buy. There's not a lot of them that have like a good 4-line. You could go for an adorned route, but a lot of the things you want are on prefixes, so it's a bit more difficult to find a good prefix-suffix combo for this setup, but maybe some other setups you can find yourself a different thing there. The main weakness I right now have is that I may be over committed into the Temporal Chains thing, maybe dropping like this section of the tree and going down through here, grabbing some of the energy shield nodes might be worth it. I haven't explored any of that yet, but just something to keep in mind. You may not want to go this heavily into the curses. Now for damage, what we're doing is quite simply just a big old Flameblast. Flameblast allows us to charge up a giant explosion, let go, and it explodes on sight. And because of the fact that everything is so slow around us, Flameblast is really, really good and feels really good to play as a build like that. Now, when you do want to do some single target and you want to do some single target faster, or if you have a mod that you don't really want to get near, you can put down the solar orb and you can trigger Flameblast on it, and it casts faster and it does all that stuff quicker. The reason you don't see me doing it very much in combat is because Flameblast right now is taking 360 mana a second. And that's not including the fact that it's supposed to be +1, because I corrupted it and it didn't get the +1 level. So we're talking at level 20, if you get a 2120 of this thing, you're going to be doing, it's going to be like 500 mana a second. So realistically, the idea of using orb and then also using that, if you're going to use that on every pack of mobs, you're just going to yourself so quickly. It just doesn't work. So for the most part, I'm just casting Flameblast manually like so. And to make that feel better, I've got mobility in there so that I don't have as much of a movement speed penalty when I cast it. And then also I have momentum because I am moving constantly. You'll see that little green flicker around me. It means that it's going to explode for that 40% increased damage. from there as well. So that combination is why I'm kind of self-casting everything. Momentum does work if you're on Solar Orb, but like I said, it's just that mana cost is so prohibitive right now that it's impossible to really use it without some other way of doing that. Now, of course, someone can make the argument of going this node in terms of Stormweaver, but then you really don't get to use a third node, and using 2 shocks with what's going to end up being my 6th link becomes really important. If we go to... let me pull this up real quick. This is probably going to be my 6th link, which is Stormfire, which is shocks from supported skills do not expire on ignited targets. So if I put this on Flameblast, as long as the thing is ignited, it's going to have 2 shocks from Stormweaver on it that don't expire. That's going to be a lot more damage on top. Now, I am using Searing Flame just to boost up that magnitude of the ignites. You'll notice from some of the clips, though, it doesn't really matter for the ignite. Like, I hate to say this, but ignite and many of the ailment killings kind of just suck right now, because I'm killing stuff mostly with the impact of Flameblast. Yes, the ignite is doing something afterwards, but it really does feel like a lot of times you're just killing stuff with Flameblast rather than igniting them when it comes to map clear and stuff like that, because the hit is such a big portion of it. You might as, you know, I don't really understand why they went with ignites and ailments being this way, but it is what it is. Here we are. And then I'm using ignition as my last thing for 100% more chance to ignite. This may not be necessary for me anymore at this point. I have a lot of percent ignite on places within my gear. I'd have to do the math and actually add it all up to see how much I have, but I might be able to actually drop this if I'm close to that 300% that you kind of need to make that work. I just haven't really refined this build yet. We'll talk about things I want to do later on with it. Then for Solar Orb, it's just exposure, exposure effect, and then Font of Mana. So we get Font of Mana when we put it down, once again helping our mana sustain issue a little bit there. So that's the combo there. You'll notice I have an Eye of Winter with an Unleash. I hate using this thing. I know it's supposed to be used. I know it's good, but basically if you unleash Eye of Winter on something, it gets the 10 stacks of the Eye of Winter debuff on it, or 20 stacks of the Eye of Winter debuff on it for critical weakness, and thus it does get you a base critical strike that's higher, and you could utilize that to try to build some crit into the build for crit elements and things of that nature. I just haven't thought about doing that much because I just hate the idea that I have to use Eye of Winter on mobs to get crit chance. I know it's good, I know it's supposed to be used, but I really just despise it as a mechanism. So in terms of the rest of the gearing, the big thing for me is, of course, the Spirit. So getting enough Spirit to put on 3 curses, or in my case, 3 curses and the curse effect modifier. You know, you save a little bit of Spirit by not having that on there, but by qualitying up, putting on the curse effect modifier and, you know, having quality Blasphemy, you do need 182 or 184, I can't math, Spirit on my setup currently. So your chest piece, your amulet, and wherever else you can get Spirit are going to be really, really important. So that's how I can fit in 3 curses, and the way we're getting the curse limit is Dodra's Damning, and of course we have Whispers of Doom in there as well. So that is 3 curses and enough Spirit to run those 3 curses. The big thing to say that I really despise about Ignite currently is the Ignite Prolif. Ignite Prolif is ignites you inflict spread to other enemies that stay within 1.5 meters, so small, for 2 seconds. This Ignite Prolif is just unbelievably bad. Like, I cannot fathom how this is designed to be the prolif of this thing, because unless you are playing this build where mobs do not move, nothing is staying within 1.5 meters of the ignited target for 2 seconds. It is unbelievably badly designed. I've been using it on the ring. If I can drop this, I'll probably put it here and then put Stormfire as my 6th link and put in a ring that gives me either, you know, more life, or maybe if I do end up switching Energy Shield, that would be a thing I end up doing. I've just been having it on the ring. This is very placeholder gear. After all, if you look at my helmet, it's a max life physical damage reduction helmet from level 5. Very much placeholder stuff. So we'll get to things I'm thinking about changing later on in the video. But for now, Ignite Prolif is really, really crap. It does work really well in breaches and rituals for just kind of like the amount you're getting swarmed in, especially rituals, because the corpses will prolif, and the prolif that is applied, and this is one of the kind of redeeming factors of it, the prolif that is reapplied is actually full duration instead of like the old school style where it is the remaining duration that's being reapplied, and it just like cascades down smaller and smaller. This is the full duration of the ignite is reapplied on every single target, so it does do well in tight packs of things like ritual, but overall I wouldn't really count on it as being your main way of doing anything. It kind of sucks that it is the case. From there, the rest of the gear is really the bog standard stuff you're gonna assume on any type of gear for these kind of characters. We're looking at, we'll go to the gloves in last, but we got some max life, resistances, flash charges in this case. Here we got some max life, some movement speed, bit of mana chaos resist, bit of regen, you know, the normal stuff. Helmet, like I said, really bad helmet. Should probably be making this character as an energy shield character in the current state of the meta, but it is what it is. Chest piece, resistances, spirit life, the normal. And then the big thing for me that I realized afterwards when I was buying my gear is the +2 to level up all spells for both the focus only has that, the amulet only has that, but the wand, I ended up getting by accident a +2 to all spell skills, and then I realized when I did that that's also affecting all my curses, and that's really good, right? Like, you really want the ability to, because I just wasn't thinking about it. I was thinking I want Flameblast levels, I can buy either a fire spell or a +1 all, and this one happened to be available. Picked it up because it was +4 all, and then I realized, oh yeah, I'm gonna do all my curses as well with this, so it's really big for that. You get all your curses to be boosted up by another 4, and it's essentially locks me into wanting this kind of wand all day. Probably one could say that you'd want cast speed in here as well, but realistically with how bad the mana cost is, I don't know if I could actually handle any more cast speed in this build whatsoever. I'm never gonna be able to cast faster than I can generate my mana. So right now mana regen is the biggest issue, and that's probably something I'd also be trying to fix with the rings if I were to go that route. So the weapons are gain extra as fire damage, mana, +4 to all skills, and then ignite chance. Once again, you got to get to a really big ignite chance to kind of guarantee that ignite, because that base threshold stuff math thing, either way you need a lot of ignite chance. It's not a get 100 and you're good to go anymore. You just need as much as you can get, up to 300%. Which I might already have. So from there, the rest of the gear is the gloves, and I went looking for something like this because it is kind of rare to find this. The corrupted gloves with the debuffs to inflict slow magnitudes are not that available. There's a couple more left, and maybe I need to buy myself an energy shield version of this. I'm not entirely sure, but I went one of these, and this is really big for the temporal chains. It gave me like 15% on temporal chains. So if you're missing some of those percents and wondering where they're coming from, it's stuff like this that's really going to be getting that for you. When it comes to leveling this build, don't level as anything ignite. I played through the campaign on incinerate, and like I'm a masochist. I play things that aren't good, and I want to see if there's some reason that they can be solved or some way to make them better. And incinerate is probably the most painful way of getting through the campaign I've done so far. Like, just play Spark, Flame Wall, Stormweaver. I know it's gonna kind of suck to switch off Spark because Spark is so powerful when you get to Flameblast, but hey, at least it feels good to play Flameblast. Yeah, so leveling through the campaign, it's kind of just do basic bog standard Spark, Stormweaver stuff. I went straight for the curse stuff so that I could go this setup at 52 and feel what it felt like, but it's probably not worth it. It's probably just better to get some damage and stuff going on in the beginning. So depending on how you're leveling the build, how you're respecing, that would be probably a good idea. For me, I was actually even using like leveling sticks with like +3, like this kind of stuff. I had like a +3 fire spells, all this stuff from 26 onwards, and it was still really bad to play incinerate. Even just something like I bought corrupted searing touches. This was going to be my late game staff until we realized that the +4 to all was affecting the stuff for curses, so we ended up switching to that instead of using staves, and we got a bit more from the focus and stuff in there. I know there's no socket in there, but overall I just love this build. It's so much fun to play a build where you actually get to like see a mob and then like start charging, like as the mob flies by, pop it off, keep going, and then keep doing this. It's so much fun to be able to have a build that allows you to actually play like engaged with the mobs and like see what they're doing, react to what they're doing, rather than having them just jump around all over on top of you and everything is just fucking flying off all over the place. This is just so good to, you know, do what it is. So yeah, it's been a blast to really play this build and just enjoy it overall. There's an argument to be made about going chill instead here if you want to have defensively another layer if they do like bop temp chains, which they might. This might be too powerful in their eyes, but realistically for me I think it's fine because, like I said, I'm not immortal. I'm not by any stretch of the imagination a perfectly immortal build that cannot die. I'm still very much a man walking through the forest getting slapped around, but realistically, very fun build, very fun setup, and I hope to kind of refine it over the next couple days to see if I can make it actually feel like I'm not as squishy as I am, because I am still technically squishy. The biggest thing would be probably dropping off this section here, and then maybe pathing through here, getting a bunch of energy shield gear, because we know the state of life to ES being what it is right now. Grabbing this energy shield, grabbing this energy shield, maybe grabbing that energy shield, maybe pathing up here, grabbing some, who knows. That's probably the real way to play it, is to go with the meta thing of just having energy shield everywhere. Realistically, I would love to have like 3,000 HP, and I think I'd feel fine on this setup, but missing that extra 1,000 is just so painful. Maybe I gotta look at like hybrid gear. Change out some stuff, like, you know, my helmet and ring of course need to be changed out, and I could push myself up to like 2,500 HP maybe. It would be rough to try to get there, but it's possible that it's some way to do that. Get a corrupted one of these with more resistances and stuff. I'm not entirely sure, but like I said, it's not a build that's going to be like, you know, making the highlight reels for killing everything as fast as possible or one-shotting mobs, anything like that. It's not good, like, it's not the greatest of anything. It's just good. It's just fun to play. Ignite really needs some work. I think Ignite is in a bad spot in terms of general, just what it feels like to play an Ignite build. You're not really Ignite build. You're Flameblast with the trickle of Ignite afterwards, and that's not how it should be. It should be that you're actually playing something that's designed around igniting and designed around that, rather than jumping through the hoops of just all the other stuff. Having to worry about having a mana cost of almost 400 is insane. But either way, by far my most favorite experience so far in the end game, and I'm gonna keep playing with it. I'm probably gonna ignore Citadels for a while because I hate those things so much right now. If I need to, I'll just jump on Bleeding Concoction and one-shot them. That's fine. But yeah, it's last night's Citadel experience with the bugged out NPC for the stupid this node here. Anyway, hopefully that video was informative. Hope you all learned something. Hopefully you are inspired to try this setup out, because it is really fun to do and like mess around with this triple curse setup. And yeah, if you have a different version of it, by all means play it while you can, play it while it's available. I thought maybe I could like incorporate it in the melee somehow, make a melee setup that has this kind of thing, and it's possible it can. It's not impossible to say that I could come out from here and then maybe drop off like this section of the tree and still get enough to get all this and figure out a way to make melee ignite. I don't know. There might be future builds there if they don't bop this down too hard, but we'll find out when we get there. For now, though, thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions, by all means, put it in the comments below. Ask on Twitch, ask on Twitter, whatever. Ask on all the places, and hopefully I covered everything that needed to be covered. Yeah, jewel sockets are just resistances. Yeah, just resistances. Anyway, thanks for watching. Peace.